Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Tugu Negara. It was built in 1966. It was bombed in 1975 by the communists. It was created as a reminder to those who gave up their life for the pursuit of freedom. And what exactly is freedom, ladies and gentlemen? It is a word certainly loved by the politicians to be thrown around together with the word of democracy and rule of law. Freedom to me means that we have the ability to choose for ourselves. It's just that, the ability to choose. Now, our journey to freedom, in my opinion, began 80 years ago. 80 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, the Japanese Empire decided to invade what was then British Malaya. British Malaya was at that time the largest producer of tin for the whole world. It was also the largest producer of rubber for the world. If British India was considered as the crown jewel of the British Empire, then British Malaya, I would say, comes to a close second. Ladies and gentlemen, 80 years ago, this month, the Japanese invaded British Malaya, what was then known as British Malaya, now Malaysia. They invaded from the northern Malaya, from Kota Baru, Singgora, Patani, and in 70 days, they went down from northern Malaya and down south all the way to Fortress Singapore itself and captured Fortress Singapore. And in 70 days, ladies and gentlemen, the myth of the white man rule, the myth that the British were superior to us in everything, was completely and utterly destroyed. Winston Churchill said that the capitulation of British Malaya was the single greatest disaster of the entire British military history. And this is coming from a man who saw the fiasco of Dunkirk and Gallipoli itself. Imagine that. To him, to the great Winston Churchill, even Gallipoli and Dunkirk is not as bad as the fall of Malaya itself. It did give me a pause to think. He said that. The more I researched about it, the more I realized why he said it. Because when British Malaya fell, and the whole house of cards that the British Empire built to sustain their empire in the Western Hemisphere, to sustain themselves in the Asian continent, fell as well. They could have never re-established their so-called superiority ever again here and anywhere else for that matter. But the whole idea of this series, ladies and gentlemen, is not meant to put a blame on the British. No, it's not like that. It is meant to appreciate our position, the Malayan position, in a historical context where we were in the world, and to appreciate that the journey to freedom was a multi-effort parties. You see, how we got our freedom was not just by the Malays. It was by the Malays, by the Indians, by the Chinese, by the Dayak, by the Melanau, by the British, by the Scots, by the Irish, by the Indians, by the Punjabis. It was a multi-racial effort, and there I would say, at that juncture, it meant that it was a multi-parties effort to save what they believe a better future for them, which was at that time they considered to be the British Empire. So, ladies and gentlemen, how this whole idea and this series came about was when we were in lockdown, and I bought this book called Have You Met Mariam? This book I bought from a friend of mine, Mr. Tajuddin Idrus. He is the owner of the Facebook page Koleksi Buku Sejarah Melayu or something like that. I bought it from him, and from then on, my interest in in Malaya history spurred, and from then on, I realized that there's much to be learned from there. So ladies and gentlemen, if I could have some of your time, I hope together we can appreciate the history of World War II in Malaya, and we will go and appreciate each and every one of the battle sites, appreciating what has been done and the sacrifices that was made in this World War II period in our country. Thank you.